How's it going, everyone? So today I'm going to make a review of my Aragon Divemaster II. So there's a Divemaster 1, Divemaster 2, and now a recently released Divemaster 3. This is the 2. I like the Divemaster. It's probably my favorite Aragon. I think it's the most sort of tame Aragon watch, at least in their divers collection. A lot of their watches are quite large and kind of crazy looking, so if you don't like ostentatious watches that are a bit big, probably not for you. So, Aragon Divemaster. This is a very affordable watch. I purchased this watch on Amazon Canada. I think the price came to be about $120 US, which is a great deal for this watch. It's a very good looking watch. It's big. It's 45 millimeters. It's 17 millimeters thick. The lug to lug, I can't remember exactly. I'll put it up on the screen. The lug to lug is not that big, so it'll fit your wrist that way at least. So this is a chunky thing. It's a chunky watch, right? It's big, but it wears quite well. This one's the black model. There's many different dial colors and variations. There's orange, gray. There's mother of pearl. Abalone, and so there's definitely a color for everybody. I like perhaps less crazy looking versions, so like for instance an abalone watch wouldn't appeal to me. I really like black or blue, or I'm kind of boring, so, or white. For color wise at least I'm boring. This watch has a Seiko NH35 movement, so a pretty standard movement found in many different types of watches. It's the same as a 4R36, I believe. You can, if you buy an Invicta Pro Diver, that has this movement. A lot of Spinnakers have that. Pretty much anything that's kind of a micro brand has this movement, and a lot of entry-level Seiko Pro specs as well. For example, the Seiko Turtle pretty much has this exact same movement, so it's a good movement to be in this watch. This watch has a 120 click bezel. The bezel's very good, genuinely. Like it's a very good bezel, especially considering the price that you pay for these watches. I think you cannot go wrong with this bezel at all. It's a really good turning bezel. Of course, I'm OCD, gotta get it straight. But anyways, so the bezel's very good. It's got those kind of ladder style hands there. They're different than the original Divemaster. I'll show you my other Divemaster right next to it. Red minute hand with lume. There's a Cyclops on it with the date, and there's a red border around the date. So I think the dial looks very good, especially for the price. This one's what's called the piano black. So it's quite glossy, which I think looks really good and quite fancy, if that makes sense. This watch doesn't look the price it is. It looks more expensive than it is. See-through case back, as you can see right here. The bracelet is metal with clipping pins to size. The bracelet is kind of the area where they cut costs a little bit. It's okay. It's quite loose. I find the pins kind of fit together loose. It sort of just like bunches up. The watch is rather heavy, so it kind of makes the bracelet, it kind of moves around a little bit because the bracelet is a little light. The quality of this bracelet is good for the price. It's better than a lot of Seiko ones that you get. However, the clasp is definitely not as good as a Seiko. I find that Seiko bracelets, when they're pressed ones, they fit together quite well, just work. This one, it's fine. It's just not quite as finessed as a Seiko bracelet, but it does work. Solid end links, you can see, which is always a plus. That means that I've had a problem in the past with hollow end links. Some of my watches sort of loosen off after a while. Granted, that's only happened to my SKX, but solid end links, always a plus. You can see the movement there. As I mentioned, there's a see-through case back. 24 jewels, NH35, Japan movement, Wing engineered. Wing is the individual who is the founder and designer and head honcho at Aragon. Aragon Divemaster. stainless steel. K1 refers to the crystal. This watch has a K1 crystal. It's, from what I understand, it's pretty much like a treated mineral crystal. Not totally sure on that, but I've read that it's basically a treated mineral crystal. It's not sapphire. Whether or not that's a bad thing, for me it's not. I find that they put up quite well. I've never actually scratched a crystal before. I've had watches, like I have a Breitling which has some little hairline. It's an older Breitling. It's probably from 2007, and it has kind of a little bit hairline scratches in the anti-reflective coating, so I've had that. But aside from that, I've never actually scratched any crystals, so Hardlex or mineral or K1. So basically, the crystal's totally fine, and for the price, I can't complain with that. You can see on the dial there. Maybe I'll just move this a little bit so you can see the logo. I kind of like the text that Aragon uses for their logo. It's sort of kind of sporty looking, with italicized Aragon. You know what I mean? To me, it looks good. I think it matches the aesthetic of the watch. If you had that text on a dive watch or on a dress watch, I don't think it would really fit. But with sporty watches that they tend to do, I think it looks pretty good. Sign crown there. It's a little confusing sometimes as to what Aragon's logo is. Sometimes they have a dragon on things. They have this symbol here. So. But I guess this is one of Aragon's logos, or perhaps it's sort of like a signature, an Aragon signature, if that makes sense. But looks good nonetheless. This is loomed. I'll put up a picture of the loom right here. Here's a loom on the Aragon Divemaster. Pretty good. Green in the middle, then the bezel's blue. So overall, it's really good. It looks quite cool in the dark. I don't really use loom, really, but I think just how it looks, I think it's pretty good. So I think that looks really good in the dark. It looks quite fancy, and I'd say the loom is quite good for the price. It's better than the previous iterations of Aragon that I've had. For me, this is the better loom I've ever had in an Aragon watch, the newer ones here. One improvement that I like is the dial. The indices are white. A lot of Aragons have green colored indices, which to me looks a little, it doesn't look quite as good. I prefer this. This is a little cleaner looking, a little more expensive looking. Maybe I'll just show a quick comparison then of this watch next to the Divemaster 1. I've done a review on this one about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago. This is the Divemaster 1. Both these watches for me are kind of, you know, semi-beaters. I don't really beat watches, so, but this and my Invicta, kind of those type of watches. As you can see the differences here, no Cyclops on this one. The indices are different, the hands are different. So this is what I mean if you can see the green indices versus these ones are white. I prefer the white than these ones. I like the look of these indices, but I like the color of these ones, if that makes sense. The loom on this one is all green versus the different colors on this. The crowns are different, as you can see there. No loom on this crown, loom on this crown. It's kind of a cool feature to have loom on there. Ultimately, I don't really care, but I think it looks good. One thing that's different with the older watches, I just find that this bracelet is a little, it feels nicer. It's not as kind of, I don't know, not as loose feeling. If you've ever felt an SKX bracelet, when you do this, it's just kind of loose. Functionally, it works fine, but this one just feels a little tighter. I don't know if that's just up to quality control with my specific example, but in any case, I think this one's a little, the bracelet on this one's a little nicer. Movement's identical. The case back's a little different, as you can see there. Just a different design. Makes no difference. Both look good, so. It's kind of my review of the Aragon Divemaster. I won't keep this one too long. I'd suggest that, you know, if anybody's looking to get a bigger sort of dive watch and they're not looking to spend a lot of money and they want a kind of a micro brand, I guess you could say, Aragon's a great choice. They're really good. Again, a lot of their watches are nutty. I have one Virtuoso that I've done a review on that's really large and kind of crazy. It's, for what it is, it's pretty good. I don't know if I'll end up keeping that big, huge thing for a long time, but it's kind of a guilty pleasure watch. These two, really good. Show what it looks like on the wrist quickly. Forgot to do that. I have a 7.5 inch, 7.25 inch wrist. I'm not the smallest person. I'm 6'1", so I'm not exactly slim. So to me, this watch suits. If you want a bigger style watch, this watch looks pretty good. Like, I'm kind of a Breitling guy, so I like bigger watches. I have a bigger Fortis, so bigger watches I like. This one, they make a 50mm version of this to me, which for me would be way too huge, but there's that option too. This one is 45. Overall, it's pretty good looking. Again, it's going to look bigger in the camera, but good watch. One criticism I put in too is that I find that the angles here are very sharp a little bit. The case is quite angular. This older one here, not quite as sharp on the finishing. This one, a little more so, but it's minimal. You don't really notice it when you're wearing it. It's just a small sort of nitpick. In any case, this is my review of the Aragon Divemaster II. I highly recommend the Divemaster in particular, whether it be the Divemaster 1, 2, or 3, whatever suits your fancy. They're all really good entry-level, kind of bigger dive watches, so if you're into that kind of style, definitely check Aragon's out. I think they give you a lot of bang for your buck, and some of their other models are pretty good too if you want even larger watches, if that's your style. But anyways, Divemaster 2, Aragon, 100% recommend. It's a great watch. Take care. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.